Hello, everyone, and welcome. I just wanted to do some sort of little demonstration or comparison of the Prophet 10 REV4 versus the Prophet VS. And I have not had the Prophet VS for that long. I've had it since last October, and it's end of April now. And I have had the Prophet 10 for quite a bit longer. I think I got that in 2020 when it came out, somewhere around there. Not that any of that's important, other than you'll know that I'm a lot more familiar with the Prophet 10. So the first thing I did was created an initialized patch. So that's going to be program 99 on the Prophet VS. And the Prophet 10, you can just hit record preset. So if I'm on a preset, I can just hit record preset, and now obviously we're in a initialized patch. So the first thing I'll do is actually tune down the Prophet 10 one octave, because that's just the way it sounds in this one. So let's just play this note here. C. Oh. Let me start over. All right, I had turned chorus on for a second, and now it's off. Okay. So the first thing you'll hear, I tried to get the levels accurate. I apologize if they're not. The first thing you'll hear is just how much darker the Prophet 10 is, and that's just because apparently you need to open the envelope up, or the envelope amount up a little bit to get it to open up all the way. And what I found was that around 2 or 3, which is around 9 or 10 o'clock, you start hearing it about it at its max. So let me show you that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's around 10 or 11 actually. And now yeah, they sound pretty close here. It's still a little darker. And something you probably can hear pretty readily is just that there's this sound, some sort of aliasing or artifacts that you hear with the VS that's not there on the Prophet 10. So let's hear some up. So this is a sawtooth wave. Yeah, you can hear just how dirty that sounds with the VS. Has a lot more mid-range tones as well in the VS. I didn't yet put on, I didn't put the EQ on to look at, and maybe I'll kind of record that later so you can see it. But it just has like a thicker sound to it, to my ears. But I mean, they end up being kind of similar when you end up having them in recordings, that it probably doesn't matter. I think where the interesting difference is in the filter. Well, obviously the VS has a lot of other interesting things, which include multiple waveforms, and you can sort of go through waveform mix, which is obviously something you can't do on the Prophet 10. But what the Prophet 10 does is it has that Polymod section, which is just really nice for beefing up the sound. So so let's just we'll just go through a demo here of like just how the filter sounds different. So I'll just kind of have the cutoff go from max to min. Almost has like a TB303 kind of intonation about it. Which I don't get with the Prophet 10. And you might say, well, there are two filters. That's true. What I find is that the two filters don't really sound that different to me. I don't know. People say they sound different, but I don't hear it. So I'll do the other filter as well. I'll switch them. So we're on 3. 1 and 2. I would think the 1/2 rev would be closer because I think that was like an SSM filter, and God, I guess I think, well, I'm pretty sure it's a CEM filter here in the VS. Yeah, but it's still neither of them sound super close in that regard. So let's turn up the resonance. So I'll open them back up, turn up the resonance to about 50%. You can hear stepping. That's true of both of them. You can tell actually that the envelope is open a little bit, or the envelope amount is up, because you'll hear the cutoff. It doesn't close down as, doesn't cut off the sound quite as much as on the VS. So you can kind of hear it. So let's change it to Rev 1 and 2. I'm going to turn the volume up. It seems like it needs to match. So now I'm on the Rev 1 and 2 for the filter. Yeah, so it just kind of sounds very different. So let's turn resonance all the way up. It just sounds so dirty. Hard to explain. Let's try that with this one. That sounds like it's supposed to be about the same frequency for the harmonics. One thing you can do on the REV4 is also increase the Q factor or whatever. I don't know much about it. So you hold the filter and then you can hit these buttons. And so I put it up to the max. So that should actually, I think, make it so that the bottom end doesn't fall off as much. You can actually tell like the filter is kind of changing as you go along. So it's almost like it's out of, the filters aren't tuned right. Which is funny because it is on this thing that's like 40 years old. So you can imagine that this can end up sounding, on the VS, sounding really, I think, pleasing if you start getting the filter involved. So if we turn the envelope amount up, and forgive me, it'll take a minute because like there's so many things you can do and you just have buttons. So if we turn the rate high, so I'm gonna see if I can get the filter to kind of come in slowly. Ah, yes, I have to turn the cutoff way down. Hopefully I can get it. All right, I also have to turn the amp envelope, the release, so you'll still hear it. All right, so let's just have that kind of release take a little bit longer. Yeah, that sounds kind of nice. So, we'll try and do something similar on the Prophet 10. So let's get the attack along. Now you'll see how much quicker this is if this microphone wasn't in the way. Didn't even seem to open up as much. Took longer. Yeah, it didn't open up as much to my ears, so I'll change the attack to be a little quicker. Okay, it didn't. So let's use the Polymod section. We can put the filter, turn the filter on, and turn the source amount for the filter envelope. I think that should help. It did. Okay, so you can see how you're able to kind of do that a little better. It actually, I mean, honestly sounds pretty good on the P10 or Prophet 10. I'm not trying to say anything bad about it. Honestly, if I'm gonna keep either of these, it's probably the Prophet 10. And so you might go, well, that just sounds like that's better in terms of the Prophet VS, but as you know, the Prophet 10 has like that the Polymod section. So yeah, I turn the filter as the source, but if you also turn the oscillators, you can just get some crazy stuff to just hit the filter. So you get like filter FM basically. So if I turned on oscillator 2 and turned up oscillator B as part of the Polymod, I mean, you can hear how dirty that makes it. And how rapidly you can make those changes. I mean, so quickly you can get into just some territory you couldn't imagine getting into with the VS. I mean, the things you can do with the VS obviously, uses that waveform mix, and that's really cool. It's just something you won't get the same kind of tones out of the Prophet 10. I mean, it's just like impossible to really compare these two in that regard. So it's like such a simple comparison here. Mostly was interested in kind of comparing the filters, but I mean, you can see how rapidly you can come up with something interesting on the Prophet 10. And then also you're able to put the Prophet 10 quickly into so Unison mode. You can change it so that it actually uses poly unison, so and spread that out, and you can get some pretty thick sounds because now you're using two voices instead of just one. So now it comes down to like being a 5-voice synth. And so with the Prophet, so let's just, so if I want to use two oscillators here, I'm only using one on the Prophet VS. So what I've had to do, and maybe there's a better way to do it, I just haven't really figured it out. So what I do is go to level, and then I just kind of stick it in between two, and then you have to change the mix, the different points. And so I basically just changed them. So now it's kind of saying 50-50 A and B. And then I have to go and change wave B, and I'm going to put that to the same frequency, so they're both at 0, which is kind of a shame. It's not a huge range on it, but whatever. So now let's turn resonance down, cutoff up, and I'm going to turn the release down to 0. So you're not really hearing anything. That's because wave B, sorry, is there we go. So wave B was just as like a triangle wave, so you couldn't see it or hear it. But if I change now, it's on wave 1. You don't really hear that beating between them because they're digital. So what you have to do is then modify the frequency, the fine frequency. All right, so I'm gonna reset the Prophet 10, and you'll hear me see how long it takes me to get to the same spot. So and then I can show you just pretty quickly where they both kind of just end up going in their own direction. So maybe what I'll do is so I'll kind of explain as I'm doing this. So, for mixing the different oscillators, it really kind of takes me a while to set up. So I'm adjusting rates and where the levels are. And right now you can kind of just sort of change the rate and the levels. So the levels being where the waveform mix is. So I'm kind of sit there and just sort of make up where I want them to go. I mean, you can be more pedantic about it, I guess. And so yeah, that's kind of what you can hear there. And then change the wave shapes. And honestly, there's a lot. I don't know much about all of the waves. I know that wave 1 is saw. I think wave 2 is square, things like that. So if I just go and modify these wave shapes and just kind of choose random ones. And then you can loop that. So right now it's going from 1 to 3 and then going back to 1 to 3. Now it's going from 0 to 3 and back. So what you can do then is mix the rates differently. Which, to me doesn't sound that great. So like to me it would sound better to modify these slowly. And then you can use the filter. Oh, and oscillator C is at a frequency of 19, which is like a seventh above. So it'll end up coming in and sounding like a different pitch, which is really cool that you can do that. I forgot to mention that. So I'll do the same thing for oscillator D to be 24, and then you can turn on chorus. The filter, I want to make sure, okay, it closes, or has a long release. Okay. And then, so this is just like a sound you can come up with. And one thing I forgot to show, you can adjust the panning for each voice. So I kind of just randomly make them go. And so we'll try that again. You can obviously also turn on the LFOs. So you do that by using the modulation, choosing the... so if I choose LFO 2, and let's say I want to go to using the filter, I can change that. So now it's going to kind of go... probably. Yeah. So now I need to change filter 2 rate. Yeah, I think that sounds cool. The other cool tricks you can do with this that I've so far learned, which again is not based on a long time, is now if I take, I can create new sounds just by holding Enter and 2. So you can just come up with random patches, which sound all sorts of crazy. I mean, and they can sound really, really good too. That's a good one. That was cool too. Okay, that was okay. A lot of them sound like that. Yeah, that's really neat. So I can show you just quick kind of coming up with something on here too. I mean, it goes really quick. So I'm going to start over and we will, let's just throw the Polymod on to the oscillator or to the filter. that's kind of what I like about the Prophet 10, is the sense that you can just kind of really quickly get to new sounds, which kind of takes a lot of effort. And the end result is just something that ends up being so different between the two of them that there's really no actual comparison. I've just seen some people mention online, like, from 10, 15 years ago, people saying, oh, you don't really need a Prophet 10 when you've got a Prophet VS. They're really different. So what, maybe it's just like an odd comparison, of course. And the thing you miss with the Prophet 10 or Prophet VS that you can't hear is how loud it is and how you can feel it vibrating. The Prophet 10 is silent. Not that it really matters, but eventually I'd like to get the power supply swapped out on this thing. And the buttons are pretty old. They don't feel quite as nice as the new ones. But they're about the same size. Physically, they look about the same. And the keypad's okay, and it's nothing to complain about on the Prophet VS. It's good on the Prophet 10. There's obviously a lot of really cool modulations you can do on the Prophet VS, but I think like the strength of the Prophet 10 is in the Polymod and how easy it is to get just a huge assortment of sounds with barely turning the knobs. So I know I didn't go through an extensive comparison between them, but hopefully you found the comparison that I did do interesting for what you're interested in doing. So thank you for listening, and enjoy.